myself, I'm a Rwandan citizen. I'm a native of this beautiful land, but I did not grow up in Rwanda. And I think you could tell probably from my very hybrid accent. I lived half my life across different parts of Africa and another half in the United States. 4 years ago, I decided to come home. I came home without much of a plan, no job, just had parents here. I said, at least I won't die of hunger, a little savings, but a lot of hope and a lot of belief in what this country was doing. His Excellency, the President Kagame, has famously said, there is no such thing as a small country, only small people. And Rwanda is one of those countries that punches above its weight. I think the Commonwealth Business Forum itself attests to that. It's for this reason that I came back home. I felt I could contribute my skills, my know-how, my interest and passion in communications and media, so that we could tell our story to the world. But as you can see, we are doing a pretty good job already. So without further ado, we will kick off our session with a short video to highlight some of the investment opportunities and what we are here in this session to learn more about in real life, in real time, with some exceptional investors. So, if I may, I can kick off with the video.
Guided by these three core values, Rwanda has emerged to become one of the fastest growing economies in Africa and the world today. At the outset, we prioritize laying a foundation of security, peace, reconciliation, and unity. We set out to ensure that Rwanda's rapid high growth was sustainable and inclusive, with nobody left behind. Through bold and consistent reforms, Rwanda today is one of the world's best places to do business. We have transformed our landlocked country into a land-linked, modern, connected, and progressive economy. Rwanda has some of the most advanced ICT infrastructure in the region and is an emerging innovation hub in Africa. Rwanda has established itself as a proof of concept destination, attracting innovators seeking to develop, test, and scale their business models in Rwanda and beyond. Rwanda is emerging as a premier financial hub, with the Kigali International Finance Center providing an attractive destination for investors seeking opportunities across the African continent. The center is also ranked among the top 5 financial centers in Africa. The country is reputed for being one of the most remarkable tourism destinations in the world. We have consistently diversified our tourism sector. In a span of a few years, Rwanda is now ranked the 2nd most popular destination in Africa for hosting international conferences and events. And it is emerging as a leading sports events destination on the continent. Like the rest of the world, Rwanda was disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic. However, our response was swift and robust, gaining global recognition. We have surpassed the World Health Organization's vaccination target, ensuring the health and safety of our people. To safeguard businesses and jobs, we have invested $250 million through the Economic Recovery Fund and implemented innovative incentive programs to drive in priority sectors such as manufacturing, agro-processing, and construction. We have also invested in empowering our young, talented workforce with skills for tomorrow. This is why we have partnered with world-class learning institutions to establish their continental campuses in vibrant and cosmopolitan centers across the country. A strong innovation culture has also been established with a particular focus on developing talent in the ICT sector. As we accelerate towards our Vision 2050, Our development gains will not be sustainable if we do not protect our planet. Rwanda has an ambitious climate action plan to secure a clean and sustainable world for future generations. There is a lot more to discover about Rwanda and its opportunities.
A round of applause for the very hard-working folks at Rwanda Development Bank. And without further ado, I would love to introduce you to the chairman of the Rwanda Development Bank, the organ that is responsible for promoting Rwanda across the world. Mr. Israq Fisher is a lifelong angel investor. He is a lifelong Rwandan, if I may say, Mr. Israq, add that to your profile, with experience and expertise in PE and VC backing. And he has, within their portfolio, have backed over 85 different startups across the world. So I think, without further ado, the best person to welcome and to help us kick off this session, Mr. Israq, I do welcome you to the podium and request everyone to give him a warm round of applause. Thank you.
Good morning to everybody. Before I start, I would like again to thank Claire, who is sitting in the first row in the RDB organization, for putting this amazing event together. I cannot tell you how many times I hear from delegates about the surprise, I would say, and high praise for the way this event is running, and a round of applause for the hard people of RDB. Now you may ask yourself, what does an Israeli that lives in New York do in Rwanda and become a Rwandan? Well, my story is a very typical story. I came here as a tourist. I celebrated 6 years ago, I celebrated my 60th birthday, and I went on a safari, 4 countries, 2.5 weeks. And I went to Botswana, and I went to Tanzania, I went to Zambia, and I went to Rwanda. And for me, landing in Rwanda was an eye-opening experience. And again, as a Western that was born in Israel, raised in Israel, moved to New York, I have been living in New York for the last 27 years. You land in Rwanda, it's not just the clean streets and the amazing beauty of the country, but it's the people. And when you talk to people in Rwanda, you sense immediately the eagerness to learn and the eagerness to succeed, and the openness for new ideas and the openness to do business. And it's a funny story, but as we are touring Kigali, my wife turns to me, and she's not here, she would kill me if I would mention her name like this, but she turns to me and she says to me, "You must do something in Rwanda." And now when we are discussing it, by the way, she says to me, "I didn't know you'll take it that far." So I think I did a good job. But anyway, I met the president, and as you know, our president is a very charismatic guy. And the president invited me to come back and told me, "Do a week in Kigali. We will arrange for you to meet whoever you want to meet, and see how you can help us." And I did a week. Met the president at the end of the week, and I said, "I'm going to start bringing foreign investors." And I've done that for a year, and after a year I told him, "You know, there are still some bureaucracy, there is still some issues that you run to. I think I'll be more effective if I'll have some more weight behind me." And he said, "No, you know what, we have a great idea. We'll nominate you to be the chairman of the Rwandan Development Board." And I did not know Rwanda Development Board. I did not know anything about institutions in Rwanda. And I became the chairman of the Rwanda Development Board, and that's where I teamed with Claire. So I've been now 5 years the chairman of the Rwandan Development Board. In the last 5 years, I've been to Rwanda from New York, which is, I always mention, 22 hours to get here. I've been here 26 times. I believe that I believe that this is the land of opportunities. I was born in what we call Startup Nation. For me, Rwanda is Startup Nation Africa. There are amazing opportunities in any area that you touch, and there are eager local partners that are waiting to work with you. I've been blessed to meet people from all different industries here in Rwanda, and I can tell you that when it comes to entrepreneurship, startups, and to more established industries in the food or health sectors, we have made an amazing progress in the last 6 years, but there is a long way to go. My mission for this Commonwealth Business Forum is that for the people that came to Rwanda for the first time, and you know what? Who is here in Rwanda for the first time? Please raise your hand. A big amount of people. So for the people that are here for the first time, I would love for them to share the same experience that I had, and for them not to go back home and in 3 months just tell all their friends that Rwanda is great, but actually I would like for all of you to come back to visit us, and in many, many cases, invest in Rwanda and create some connection that is beyond, tourism, but actual business. And I can promise you that the business opportunities in Rwanda will bring you great returns. Nobody should invest anywhere without knowing that the investment that he's making is actually going to have great returns. And I can promise you that in Rwanda, there are many opportunities with great returns. Lastly, I would like to mention, because not a lot of people know, but there is a lot of venues around the city that show the technology and the entrepreneurship of Rwanda. And one of them, or one of the most important, is the entrepreneurship shop of the best Rwanda entrepreneurship at the I&M Bank. I'm inviting everybody to go and see. There is at least 20 companies that it will be very nice and interesting for you to visit. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you very much, Ishrak, and a pleasure to have you as well today. So without further ado, we're going to kick off our panel. I will have the pleasure of calling our panelists up, and for the interest of time, I will introduce you as you take a seat, my panel. We had a little rehearsal this morning, and unfortunately, we have to be adaptable, considering we want to make sure everyone gets out on time. So without further ado, please join me and make sure to give them a warm round of applause on this early morning to come out and do business with you and talk about themselves. I will start off with Mami Ingabire, the Managing Director of CARIS Rwanda and Unmanned Aerial Solutions Company. Mami, I promised not to pick on you first, but I had crossed my fingers. Welcome, Mami. Mami will be followed by our retired Honorable Andrew Mitchell from the United Kingdom. Please give him a warm round of applause. Very seasoned senior politician and friend of Rwanda, who has done a lot of work in the past decades, a lot of philanthropic work, which we'll hear about. Next, we will speak to Mr. Idris Jala, the president of Pemandu Associate, Malaysia. Mr. Pemandu is a self-proclaimed private-public businessman who has been a former minister under the Prime Minister's Department, transforming Malaysia towards a high-income status by the year 2020. So warm welcome, Mr. Idris. I have next, with a lot of courage, Mr. Sumit Barja, who has come in on behalf of Mr. Suhail Albana at the last minute. Mr. Sumit, thank you for answering the call and being available. Unfortunately, Mr. Suhail cannot be with us, but Mr. Sumit is the chief executive officer of DP World here in Rwanda, Kigali. They are a premier logistics company, and we will hear more about the work that they've been doing in Rwanda and all over the world as well. And last but not least, Mr. Ferit Şahenk. Mr. Ferit Şahenk comes to us all the way from the Dosh Group, Turkey, the largest conglomerate in the world of F&B luxury, also across many different hospitality, construction, agriculture, different sectors. Mr. Şahenk, thank you very much. Perhaps I think it's your name that I've been practicing the most this week, so thank you. I hope I've said it correctly. And of course, I will be moderating the session, so I hope you enjoy. Thank you. So, gentlemen and my dear companion, Mami, I'd love to start off by asking about, we'll just get right into it. You are high-level investors, philanthropic, senior leaders in government and civil society coming from all over the world here. I think that almost every single continent except the Americas is represented here. But we're here in Rwanda, and I'd love to hear about why Rwanda, what has been your involvement, and what have been your success stories and perhaps challenges. So I know it's a big question to ask. Maybe we'll start off with why Rwanda, and then you can give us one success and maybe one challenge that you faced so far. So if I may start with you, Mr. Idris, on the end, and we'll come down.
My team and I am privileged to have been able to be invited by Claire and the team to help Rwanda really find a way how to catalyze private investments. And so what we did, our technology is a very simple one. We were able to bring something like 150 representatives from 60 companies and the government. We locked them in the room for altogether 6 weeks. We call it Hotel California. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. Find problems that they have in Rwanda and solve them there and then in the room. So in 6 weeks altogether, in the period of time, we've been very impressed with the level of support that were given by the Prime Minister, Claire and the team, and also the various other economic ministers. They were together with the private sector to do this. And altogether, 112 projects were confirmed and agreed, and altogether 69,000 jobs were created and established by them, $3 billion of investments. Fantastic. And that's my involvement with them.
That's amazing. I love starting with a bank, Mr. Idris. And one thing about you that many people may not know in this room, you were former CEO of Malaysia Airlines, one of the top airlines in the world. And Rwanda Air has been doing and creating, has had a lot of strides in establishing itself on the continent to connect Rwanda to the world. And I think that's something you can appreciate. And hopefully, I know you came from Malaysia, but we'll be getting to Malaysia as well as Rwanda Air. So one thing you've struck upon was the willingness to reform, willingness to innovate. And so I think it's a perfect segue to what you do, Mami. As a managing director of Caris USA, you do drone technology. Can you tell us a little bit more about that investment or that product in Rwanda?
Thank you very much. Caris US was founded in 2014 with the aim of making meaningful impact but really solving challenges found here in our continent using drone technology. We really strongly believe, as young entrepreneurs, Rwandan entrepreneurs, we strongly believe that we can provide real-time data and advanced data analytic, to solve challenges in various sectors, helping those in those sectors to make meaningful intelligent, decision-making to optimize their operations and get the right information, accurate information on time. And for example, we are now, providing amazing solutions in health where we reduce malaria cases, through detecting, using advanced analytic AI and drones to detect breeding sites, mosquito breeding site, and use drone to spray larvicide. And we have tested the technology here in Rwanda, and it's proven. And right now we are scaling up to many countries. We are providing so many solutions in agriculture, in energy, environment and construction, providing topographical survey in a very quick way and having right information, real-time data information. Right now, we are providing services in 6 countries in Africa, and we have our second big office in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, and all started right here in Rwanda, using drones technology. Thank you very much. We know that when it comes to drones, there's so many risks related to it, but we were really, blessed, as I can say, to start here in Rwanda because the regulators really received us well. They didn't stop us because at the time, we didn't have regulations in place, but they understood, the ideas behind it, and they've created enabling environment and ecosystem for us to be able to create, to innovate, and here we are making indeed meaningful impacts in the continent. Thank you.
That's an amazing story, actually, progress as well in terms of from proof of concept to scalability, and again, hearing the same theme of reform, of enabling policy, enabling environment, and so turning to you, Mr. Mitchell, Andrew, if I may, you have been a senior politician in the United Kingdom. You've worked a lot on bilateral relationships, but you're also a friend of Rwanda, so someone who understands the idea of creating policies that allow societies to flourish. You have led social enterprise in Rwanda as well. So tell us a little bit more about that philanthropic work or involvement and why.
Well, I'm slightly different from the other titans of business and industry on this panel, in that I'm partly a politician and partly a businessman. I spent 30 years at Lazard, the International Development Bank, and spent quite a lot of time in Africa as a very young banker. But I've been a politician and a member of the House of Commons. I'm still a member of the House of Commons. I haven't retired, but I am the former British Development Secretary. And I first came to Rwanda nearly 20 years ago as a politician to see how on earth a society that had been so shattered by the events that had taken place pulled itself back together again and started to succeed. So I followed the Rwanda story with great love and with great affection and respect over the last 20 years. And I think that's really my contribution this morning, just to say a very few words about that. And as part of the Commonwealth Business Forum, we all know why everyone is here. They're here to drive forward investment, business, and to make sure that economic activity in Commonwealth countries, and in particular in Rwanda, builds up. Because we all know that it's economic activity, it's investment, it's having a job which helps poor countries to lift themselves out of poverty and to succeed. And the point I would make to this conference is that from the moment you land in Rwanda, you know you are in a different sort of country to all those around. Meetings start on time. You can see the extraordinary mobility in this country. If social mobility applied to a country, it would apply above all to Rwanda. And the extraordinary rapid industrialization since 2000, the growth 8% per annum. The very successful Rwanda Development Board, which is so ably chaired and run, as we've seen this morning, a model for other countries in how to succeed. The second easiest place to do business in Africa, and what was an agricultural society now clearly a services and growing manufacturing sector. But it is, in my view, above all, the leadership and the political stability which makes Rwanda such an incredibly attractive place in which to invest. It is the fact that there is a rule of law for investors, so that investors coming into Rwanda know that their money won't be stolen or squandered by corrupt businessmen or ministers and politicians. It is the fact that this country's economic growth is private sector led. There is an economic plan, and we see, as the chairman so ably demonstrated this morning in his earlier speech, the fact that countries like Israel, Singapore, Switzerland punch way above their weight because of the niche which they hold. And when I first came to Rwanda, 80% of the national budget came from the international community, only 20% locally generated. But in 2018, it was 83% that was locally generated, and only 17% came internationally. And that is an extraordinary feat and achievement by the leadership in this country. Final point I would make is merely this, that this is a young country. 53% of all the people are under the age of 19. The generation that did not suffer from the terrible events of the past. And they are educated. All children now go to primary school, and education, as I saw as the Secretary of State for International Development in this country, has soared and achieved. And so I end my remarks by saying that this is not just a land of opportunity for the people who are here, it is a tremendous land of opportunity for the international investment community, who I hope will give it increased and added attention as a result of this great meeting of the Commonwealth Heads of Government.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable. And I think, Mr. Shahank, maybe you can talk to us a little bit. We've heard about policy, willingness, we've heard about the spirit of a country. Thank you very much, Andrew. And we've talked about its youth, its resource. And I think many of you may have noticed the Commonwealth, our events, who has been behind the scenes, a lot of youthful faces. So we really have to give it up to them as well. But Mr. Shahank, you run the Dosh Group, which is the largest F&B conglomerate in the world, one of the largest conglomerates in the world, period. You are on all continents and now scaling into Africa. So really, what makes you choose? Really, I know there's willingness, policy reform, but many people would say, okay, that's very nice. But when you make an investment on behalf of a group like Dosh Group, I'm sure you look at other criteria. So what are other things that may have attracted or would have, compelled you to do some of the work that you're doing here, including building water treatment plants, infrastructure projects, railway, all this work you're doing with the government of Rwanda? Please tell us, yes, what compels you to make that investment?
First of all, thank you very much. I'm very grateful, firstly, after such a COVID period, to be together face-to-face, not on WebEx, with all the excellencies and my brothers and sisters from many nations. And I'm very proud to say that this is a very inclusive group. I think this is what's going to make the world go further with advancement, collectivity, inclusivity. And we were discussing in Qatar till yesterday the globalization. I think this is a great picture that globalization and people's need to each other, to connect to each other, will continue. Thank you for inviting me here today as well. But if you didn't invite, I was going to come myself here anyhow. First of all, what makes Rwanda? People. People is the key thing. And the leadership. Leadership, I can tell you that when I met President Kagame, I was immediately in love with this country, a great visionary, and he loves his country and his people. This is very important. Otherwise, in many countries, we are investing. In the last 70 years of my family business, I'm the second generation, in many countries, advanced, not advanced. I don't like to categorize people. But there is bureaucracy, there are rules, regulations. These are facts. But you have to have a heart, you have to have a belief, and coming from an emerging market country like Turkey, you have to believe in yourself, and your team has to believe in what you're doing. And my team has the 100% commitment beside me to be in Rwanda. And our group is a 70-year-old group. We have done construction from North Africa, Middle East, Eastern Europe, in Turkey. Later, we became a banking company. We sold our bank to a very good friends of ours, BBVA from Spain. And now we are expanding on technology, hospitality, and construction, which is our beginning of our group. I see Rwanda, when I was growing up, like my home country. That's why I feel the entrepreneurship spirit, the positivity, and the friendship will take this country with, obviously, with the grand picture, the entrepreneurship style of the leadership, President Kagame. We are going to be, we are in, with 200 plus restaurants and more than 20 hotels around the world. We want to grow in our new home country, which is Rwanda. And we want to make Rwanda to be the seed of growth for us to all other brother African nations. This is very important. We are very simple people. We don't look at balance sheets. We don't look at market caps. We look at very simple thing. We have to do something good for the country. We have to feel that when we are walking in the country, people look at us and say, we like them. We like him to be in this country. And I can only promise you this, with our hospitality, that is from Los Angeles to Hong Kong, with our construction group from Saudi Arabia to Romania, Turkey, we are going to commit all our humanity, all our passion to Africa, beginning from Rwanda. It's very simple. You just have to commit and have the passion for the country.
Thank you very, very much. There's a lot of spirit, and I think as entrepreneurs, I think most of you come from an entrepreneurial background, banking background, supporting entrepreneurs. Spirit, I think, is the driving force. And in terms of spirit and innovators, absolutely, Rwanda has been really leading the pack in many, many ways, whether from the establishment of the first green fund in Africa for Nerwa, before there was a real talk of creating and, you know, the urgency of creating such institutions, to becoming the first, launch pad for drone technology in terms of delivering blood and medicine to remote areas. There is a spirit of entrepreneurship in the development agenda, in the investment agenda of Rwanda, which is you keep hearing and is resonating and important. And turning to you, Mr. Sumit Bajwa, who is, by the way, a retired former sea captain. I love it. I've never met a sea captain officially before. But your experience in the maritime industry is also what lends to you now working with the Kigali Logistics Platform and establishing a regional logistics platform or infrastructure to help facilitate trade within East Africa and beyond. So if you could tell us a little bit more about that vision, and again, why starting from Rwanda? There are a lot of mature economies. There's South Africa. There's, places that most investors would first turn to. Yes, what compelled your group to come in and establish this, and what has been the impact?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Olivia. And good morning, everyone. I'm honored to be here. Rwanda is a shining example for DP World because here we have demonstrated how to tackle the issues relating to a landlocked territory and convert it into a land-linked opportunity. And Rwanda obviously was our preference and our choice because investing in Rwanda was an easy decision by the DP World Group because the government here is very supportive. I've been working here for past 6 years and you know.
You live here now.
Of
linking this system to the two Gaza and Dar es Salaam, so that just to provide our esteemed customer with a live tracking of their cargo movements, what is happening. DP World also invested here in a transport company and a cold store because we felt it was necessary to add these services to our portfolio. And this cold store has benefited the farmers and the perishable exporters tremendously. Their products have got a better and a longer shelf life, and they are finding new markets in the international arena through the DP World network. We have observed that through working these commodities via our facility, we have seen the avocado exports have grown by 32%, and the chili exports have grown by 54%. We saw, it's commendable what Rwanda is doing. We also saw a marginal increase in the exports of tea and coffee moving through our facility. I also give you one example that when we started this operation in Rwanda, we saw the truck turnaround time was at a staggering 14 to 15 days. And the importers a lot of money in terms of penalties, demurrage, detention, and all that. So DP World said this is our first task to handle. And I'm proud to say that today we have reduced this truck turnaround time to below 3 days, which is bringing a savings to our customers in the region of $15 million. Now you can imagine, Olivia, that more money in your pocket, that means more trade opportunities, more business opportunities, more jobs.
Absolutely.
So talking about jobs, in a short period of time, while we are operating here, DP World has created more than 600 jobs directly and indirectly. And we are proud to say that 90% of our workforce is locals.
That's amazing.
We also have an internship program, and we are creating the leaders of the future. We have tied up with many universities in Rwanda, and they are producing top-class students, and I'm not exaggerating on that.
Thank you very much for mentioning this, because one of the key things or key investments that government has made in the past decade or so has been into education. And right now we have Carnegie Mellon Satellite Africa Campus, we have the African Leadership University, we actually have an innovation campus where talent pools, whether from tech like Andela to on time, I did think it would be great for us to open the floor to our
Hi everyone, just want to let you all know that the next session will be beginning in about 2 minutes. Kindly do take your seats and then we begin shortly.